My name is Justin Krukar, and I'm here with,
Scott Mather, Scottmather.
and today is 4/15/2024. And um, where were you born?
I was born over in the valley, Hanford, California, about 30 minutes south of Fresno. So I'm one of those transplants of folks bought the beach house here and you come over for weekends. And then finally I just stayed.
And what was your upbringing like? What were your interests? Your friends like? And you said you kind of came here for beach house. Did you have it when you were a kid?
Yeah. From about, there were other families too that would all come over here. And I came over here since I was like 6 years old. But other families, folks are a little later in purchasing the property. But, I kind of had a unique growing up. I went to a private college boarding school down on Catalina Island. So I was always around the water. Learned to dive. I got my certified in diving in 8th grade, and now dove for lobsters and abalone, and had a boat there. My senior year, most kids that get cars, had cars for their senior year, junior year. I had a boat, so boating's always been kind of in my blood.
That's cool. And by here, do you mean it was here in Cayucas or down in Morro Bay?
Mostly in Cayucas.
Okay. And I guess you spoke about your your young experience with boating, but what was your first boating job, and how long were you doing it?
First boating job was at Morro Bay Marina. This was in 1970, end of 72, beginning of 73, probably going on 73. I was going to Cuesta, and not quite knowing what I wanted to do in life, so I'd do the 2 years at Cuesta. I dropped out of Cuesta after having to take public speaking, so did not like that. So I got a job at Morro Bay Marina. Just went down there and asked. And, I was familiar with it because I had the boat I had in Catalina up here, and got my fuel there, and they did kind of everything on the waterfront. They rented boats, they sold fuel, they rented clam forks, and sold gunny sacks, and had moorings and slips, and so I thought that'd be kind of a cool job, and got a job there as a fuel dock junkie. Yeah.
Did you ever have any experience in fishing or going out maybe recreationally or?
Oh, recreationally, but never commercial. Just recreational. We did recreational everything. We were the only ones water skiing off the Cayucas Pier back in the day. But recreational, yes.
Do you remember you said your family would come over. Did any of your parents or grandparents have experience either in boating or fishing or?
Not really, no.
That?
No, I just took to it.
And why did you pick boating as a career? Was it just
I don't know, I just took it, enjoyed it. I had a little Boston Whaler with a 40 on it. Go fast thing, and give you kind of freedom. I could go where other people couldn't go on the island. I have the means of transportation.
And did you have a lot of experience just around knowing fishermen? I know you know Jeremiah pretty well. And did you were you experienced in kind of the fishing area?
No, not at all, really. I mean, that's where Morro Bay Marina kind of started my whole foray into the boating world, other than at Catalina. But what was unique about there was, we saw every aspect of the boating world. We're a fuel dock, so, get there at 6 a.m. and they'd have all the rads lined up, abalone boats to get on fuel and go get abalone. And then, you'd have the yachties, after that come and get fuel for their day. And then the recreational fishermen come and get fuel or bait or whatever they needed, for the day. So these little different segments of the maritime world I saw all the time. And then what was real unique about it we ran a clam taxi, which we took clammers over to the sand spit at low tides, and they could get their limits of clams. And we'd take them over there. They'd walk over the sand spit to the ocean side, get their limit, walk back. We'd pick them up. They'd come to a designated area. We'd pick them up and bring them back. I mean, we'd have minus tide. There'd be a lineup up the street of people waiting to go, and we'd take them 6 passengers at a time. So we were running passengers for hire. And of course, we were unsafe scene. We didn't know any different. One day the Coast Guard came down and said, "We'd like to see your license for a captain's license." About license? We don't need no stinking license. But they said, "Oh, yeah, you do. You're closed down till you go up to San Francisco, take a U.S. Coast Guard exam, show your competency in running a boat, and once you have that, then you can restart." So about 3 of us at the marina that did that, studied on our own and went up there and took the test, came back with a license and started again. That started the official Captain Clams.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and which lent into everything else in my career from there on out.
And I guess you were kind of there for clams, and how did that kind of change, evolve as you grew older? Starting off, boating people over for clams. I know the Pismo clams are now limited in both season and the catch limit. Did the harbor change? Did the species change?
Well,
How did the water look?
I don't know if you could say they were overfished too a bit. But I thought they were actually, since there's so many regulations coming down the pike, I thought they were actually, you could not clam anymore. But you can. They're all so small, undersized that, wasn't worth going out. Just recently, you walk the beach and you see all these little ones coming up. And according to marine biologists, that's a sign of overpopulation was pushing the other ones up, And so, and then I just heard that people are clamming back in Pismo right now and getting regular official sized clams. So I think it's going to come back with a vengeance after a 50-year hiatus, 40-year hiatus,
Do you think that hiatus was necessary? Did you see kind of?
I think so, because they weren't there before,
Mm-hmm.
But now there's other populations that also like them too. So the California sea otter, they love them too. So we'll see a lot of empty clam shells too. So just see how that goes.
Yeah. And in terms of like the harbor, the layout, the piers, Embarcadero, how did that change at all?
Not during my tenure. It was all the same. All my jobs changed just kind of as I grew older. Starting with having to get a Coast Guard license to run passengers at the fuel dock there. I quit that job, went down the street, went to Sylvester Tugs, which they had a contract. They were tying up oil tankers off Morro Bay, the Standard Oil Pier here. And I thought that ought to be a cool job. We kind of did that from the marina. We'd have to go tow boats. Oh, this guy needs to get from this mooring over to this slip, or vice versa. Or this guy needs to go somewhere else, but the engine's broken down, so we tow them. I thought the tugboat industry would be kind of cool, so went and got on with them. I didn't get on the job to tie up tankers in Estero Bay, but I did go down to Redondo Beach, which is more experience, and tied up the Chevron tankers off El Segundo, their refinery there. Did that for about 1.5 years. So, and I think they hired me because I had a license, a small license, but I worked deckhand for them. So, but it showed that I did have some experience in the maritime world. So, and I just evolved to a, more experience. More time on larger boats, and then that one moved to another job, more time on larger boats, and ended up making a 50-year career out of running boats in the Bay and Los Angeles and San Francisco, and my last job was working for Exxon Shipping on tugs in San Francisco, tying up ships at the various different refineries there.
So you mostly stayed south of San Francisco in all your jobs.
Well,
Your career with Morro Bay.
yeah, I ended up my career with Morro Bay Harbor Patrol, but did Exxon up there. I ran boats in the Caribbean for Rockefeller Resorts. Went to North Carolina, went to a marine diesel mechanic school and ran boats there, not for pay, but because I was going to college at the same time, and a marine diesel mechanic school because I knew nothing about mechanics. And figured if I'm going to be working on boats that have a tendency to break down, and there's no AAA out there, so you better know something. So I did that. Yeah, Virgin Islands, North Carolina, worked out of the Gulf of Mexico, wanted a job on crew boats up to the offshore oil rig. So I jumped in the car and drove straight to Morgan City, Louisiana, got a newspaper and motel room, got a job the next day, on crew boats, getting experience there. So that was kind of all over, but, mostly south in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you noticed? You both yourself or, other people both getting into the industry or, maintaining their, I guess, status or place in the industry? Both, I guess.
I can't think of any obstacles too much in my way, in my industry, because I always kind of went with an industry that was growing, needed people. Like when I got onto the oil boats, like the tugboats, Sylvester tugs, crew boats, worked out of Port Hueneme and Santa Barbara and Elwood down there running crew boats, supply boats up to the oil rigs. I mean, that was a booming industry right then. I mean, they were putting in platforms. They were doing all kinds of work there in the Santa Barbara Channel. So that was always booming. I wasn't like the fishermen where they kind of get, come back with a regulation. You can't do this, you can't do that. My track is always more fluid and more successful, I think.
Okay. And has the market demand at all for, boating, I guess like your type of boating, has it gone down at all since they've installed those, oil rigs, like you say?
A little bit here, but it's so you can go anywhere in the world and get a job. But if you want to stay here, it's gone down a little bit, but there's still some good jobs. You can go down there and work. I worked for Clean Seas, which is a oil spill response unit. I ran a 135-foot boat, and then another 145-foot for oil response. So those guys are going to be around forever. But yeah, the expansion down there has, they've gone way back down there. So I was fortunate. I was lucky to go on an industry. I thought we lost it.
Yeah. And have you noticed similar demand or change for demand in the fishing industry? You've a lot of people around here that are
most definitely. Like I ended my career, and it was said previously, at the Morro Bay Harbor Department, and so I was there for 23 years. Got to really know the fishermen then, and the yachties, the fishermen, the different sects of the marine world, And then growing up here, starting in 1973 at the marina, seeing the boats, seeing the piers, seeing the activity. What do you saw? Fishing boats in the 70s. Fishing boats. They were rafted, 5, 6, 7, 8 deep at the piers. That's when we didn't have enough slips for them. They raft and it's tied next to each other. Outside. We keep going out. It was thick. Today you don't see that. You go to the piers, and the two main piers, the South T Pier and the North T Pier, are basically empty, which is really sad to see that. And then after our patrol, I'm now associated with the Morro Bay Maritime Museum. So we're learning about the history of the of the bay. And we just wanted to put in there that, I mean, those piers were built for World War II, in the late 1930s, early 40s. And those piers are still there today. So I'm really into the history of the harbor now. And it's always, let's say it's always changing.
What are some of the, I guess, fun facts or one of the newest things that you're into about the history of the bay?
Just that whole change of the harbor, becoming a harbor. Prior to World War II, the Morro Bay had a couple of rickety homemade piers with a shell. It was a marshland. It was a tidelands. It was an estuary. Now we have the estuary in the back bay, which is unmarked and shallow, and really you have to know where the channels are to get in and out. That's how the forebay was, previous to World War II. And the military, U.S. Navy, decided they needed to have a patrol base. There was rumblings of the war going on, and they wanted to have a Navy base in Morro Bay. So one of the fun facts is, if you stand where you stand on the Embarcadero back today, back then you'd be standing in water. The bay was very shallow, but it's spread out more. I mean, when you come down the Embarcadero, you come down the bluff. You do a big down the road thing to the flats of the Embarcadero. That was the natural edge of the bayfront. That was a natural edge. All the Embarcadero now, all that is infill. The Navy came in, decided to make Morro Bay deeper for bigger boats, dredge the harbor. They have what they call the Navy Channel. They dredge from the entrance to about the inn at Morro Bay, where it ends. And that's all a maintained deeper channel. So all that mud went up and became infill where the Embarcadero Road lies and all the parking lots lie and the businesses lie today.
Very, very interesting.
And one of the other fun facts is Morro Rock was an island originally. And you had an entrance on the north side and the south side. And you just kind of pick the weather, depending on the weather, which one you used. And I was reading an old Coast Pilot, a navigational aid book. The Harbor Patrol had a little flagpole out there. And they put up one flag if it was okay to come in. If it wasn't okay, too dangerous, they'd put up two flags, before radio comms and, all the technology that we have today. So it was a different world there.
And I've heard recently that the city has to dredge continually the harbor because of the breakwaters and the extension of the sand spit to Morro Rock. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have to dredge now, and then there's a little talk about whether the Navy's design was adequate to control the ongoing year after year, flow of the ebb and the flood tide, the outgoing and incoming tide. And it does silt in at the entrance and further down the channel. It does silt in, and every year they dredge. They go back to Washington, D.C. and get money. They have a lobbyist and get money to fund dredging by the Army Corps of Engineers. And it all kind of started with the entrance would be dangerous at wintertime when you get the big swells out of the Gulf of Alaska and strong southerly winds, and you get a low pressure coming through. And it would silt in, always dangerous, always few boats a year would capsize. And what kind of really changed everybody's opinion was when a very well-respected fisherman by the name of Al French capsized and died at the entrance. He was very well-respected, 50-year fisherman, came up from Southern California. He was a mentor to a lot of the kids, a lot of the newbies going in the fishing industry. And so he was capsized coming back in from a fishing trip, and got caught in the cabin and passed away. So people are going, okay, wait a second. This guy knows what he's doing. He's not what we refer to as a Bakersfield Navy. You know, people come over for the weekend and just, yeah, you know, like totally clueless. Being with the Harbor Patrol for 23 years, I saw a lot of that. So it was very nice to see commercial fishermen that knew what they were doing using the entrance. Oh, yeah, no problem. You know. But one set of waves got the owl and they capsized him, and that's when the town got together. And ever since that tragedy, that they've dredged the harbor every year.
So that was after the Navy put in their
Oh, yeah.
waters, and
Yeah.
it's just the buildup of the.
Yeah, the buildup of the sand coming in gets shallower. Swells come in, hit that shallowness. That's when they break. It's like breaking on the beach. You know, swell, you got swell forever ever until you have a beach. That breaks. So it just gets shallow enough when you have a big enough swell that it will break there. And then there's always, discussion whether the original design of where they put that was bad. You know, they didn't extend that north breakwater out far enough. I mean, that was kind of little special stories. You know, when they built the breakwater, the Army Corps said, okay, we got the mud to build the Embarcadero. It's right under us. Now we need rock for a breakwater. Hey, that's more rock there. Let's start dynamiting it, blasting it. So they blasted the rock and got the large boulders and said, well, this is pretty convenient. We don't have to go to Los Angeles, Kelly Island, grab boulders, bring them up here. A lot less expense. So they just started blasting the rock and putting those rocks out there and making the breakwater. Fortunately, if they kept going that way, they quarried it for other Port San Luis's breakwater. They quarried it for a lot of work around different houses and roads and stuff. They quarried it. So there was a gentleman by the name of Joe Giannini who was there at the time that finally got them to stop making it illegal to blast the rock. So at least we still have a rock now.
Was that stoppage by Joe out of respect for the natives, or was it just kind of respect the environment?
Respect for the environment. He was a fisherman. They're like a farmer. They're the best stewards. Farmers are the best stewards of the land. Fishermen are the best stewards of the sea, because they need that to be healthy, productive, to keep their work going. I mean, if they just wipe it out, what do you do next? So they were good stewards of the sea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of building on that, the government regulations that have been, I guess, tormenting fishermen here for forever. They, in their reports, they're claiming that it's being overfished. The population is very low. In your experience, seeing catch come in and fishermen setting up their equipment for different species and nets and things like that. In your experience, is that accurate? Do you think it was overfished, and if so, do you think that the fishermen knew that, and did they take action?
I think it was. I mean, I can't refer specifically to any certain regulation, but I mean, I saw it in the the abalone industry. I mean, they did just come in, and all of a sudden there was an industry in Morro Bay, when abalone was popular, and man took a lot of it, and probably the problem there was Fish and Game started regulating it back then. They got in a little too late, got in too late. So it's a catch-22 on something like that, but a little bit of overfishing, but they made funny rules and regulations. And now, the albacore we haven't seen in a few seasons. I mean, when I was active in Morro Bay down at the harbor, the albacore season, the boats would be up here from Los Angeles. The party boats would be running 24/7 out of bridges. They got the big ones. I was always impressed as a kid. And they go out for about, 22 hours. They go out with a boat of passengers, catch fish, come back in, clean the boat, get groceries, get fuel. 2 hours later, load and go back out again. I mean, it was just boom, boom. It was happening. It was happening all the time there. Haven't seen that in a few years now. I mean, they're albacore are migratory fish, and whether they change their patterns, I'm not a fisherman. I couldn't tell you. But I was talking to a fisherman last year, and then he said, yeah, he caught a lot of, I forget what he called them, pinheads or something, a lot of small albacore, 8-pound range, And you could see you could see the net scrapes on the sides of them, like they were able to get out of nets. Who's using nets? The big foreign fishing boats, the Perseers going around and they're not fishing like we're regulated to fish, jig-lines, and they are the big guys that sit outside the limit and just take all. It's a winner take all. So other weird things, when you get bycatch, with all the thousands of pounds of bycatch, you could not bring that in. You just have to dump it. That's what waste that is. How do you, that's a whole nother animal to manage all that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking with Jeremiah, he also expressed the similar sentiment of the foreign boats coming and kind of taking. Do you think that? Do you think that a combination of things like regulations, market demand, is going to drive our local businesses here in Morro out of business and the next
Well, if
decade?
there's not fish, people still want fish. In fact, it's getting more popular health-wise, and sure, they're gonna get the fish somewhere. Where do you get it? Costco, or Albertsons. Not going down to your local fish market. That feeds the local economy. The fisherman comes in, sells his fish, gets the money. He buys groceries at the local store and pays the property tax here. So that little circle is kind of gone when you buy it from, a foreign processor. You buy it from Costco, who gets it from who knows where. But it's cheap, and everybody likes, they like to bloat their pocketbook, as well as I do too. And then they're doing a lot of aquaculture, farm raising stuff. Kind of ashamed to see salmon, farm raised Atlantic salmon. You see it in the markets, and they have a little sign on it that said, coloring added, to make it look like a salmon. So it's not quite the same fish as in the natural, in nature, what nature provides versus what farm fish does. So it's weigh everything.
So curious, you don't think you think the market demand has gone up for fish?
I think market demand's gone up. I know in my household it has, but I think it really has. Well, look at the health, cattle, beef, In fact, when you see fish, and now whether it's the demand or the regulations, you see fish the price of fish is more expensive than beef now. Whoa. I'll probably 10 people to go back to beef. But the health reasons are number one.
And your opinion, has regulation helped or damaged the commercial fishing industry?
Well, I'm not going to make any opinion on that one because I don't know enough to make a valid statement on that. You need regulations or there'd probably be nothing left. We're a capitalist economy. The more you get, the more you sell, the more money you get. Everybody wants more money. So, you saw with the abalone industry, these slow-growing mollusks. And you go in there and you get 10 boats taking 200 dozen a day out of there. It can't sustain itself. Like the regulation. A friend of ours, Mike Radden, lives down in New Zealand now. He was very prominent in the abalone industry here. His whole family was, his father was, his brothers are.
The creator of the Brad
Of the
boat.
craft, yeah. He's down in New Zealand. And he's still driving abalone down there. But he also has a nursery. And he's propagating abalone. So when he goes out, he says, yeah, I can get 6 dozen by noon. But he plants another 200 dozen that day, sustaining itself. Also, how they regulate, the government regulates down there, they give you a tract of ocean. Wow. Yeah, they don't give it to you. Yeah, up to you, but that's yours. You can't have everybody and the brother come anchor their boat and dive and get all those abalone. Whereas out here, when they started, they still, when it was happening, everybody can go anywhere. Oh, there's a lot here. Wipe that out and move on to this one. You keep doing that and nothing's on.
And do you think there's a middle ground between, putting in too many regulations and also?
There has to be. It has to be the correct regulations. And the regulations have to be fair for everybody. When you talk about foreign cannery ships out there, if they do, if you have the albacore running the schools, Japan, Alaska, down wherever they do it, I'm not any means an expert on it. And they're cutting the gate off here to us, there's nothing left. And then they pack it and we buy it from overseas, So there's got to be fair regulations all the way across the board.
Is in your opinion and just observations, do you think there's any hope for continuation of commercial fishing in Morro Bay? And why or why not? I know there's the young man Garrett Rose and his father, and he's now harbor master. Is that correct?
What?
He's the harbor master now.
Garrett?
Garrett?
No. He used to be. I worked with him when I was harbor patrol. He was a reserve patrolman then, but then he went out for full-time fishing.
Yeah. Do you think there's hope for?
Well, it's nice to see these, because that's how this industry's always been. Father fished, made a good living, took the kids out at a young age, taught them the trade, and they took over when father, passed away or whatever. And that's how it's always been. You don't go to Cal Poly and go, okay, I want a fishing degree. There is no such thing. Well, it's kind of old school, in the trade, just like the old cobbler, I guess, and the brick maker, the candlestick maker, all that. That's how it was done. That's not happening as much anymore. So it's nice to see people like Garrett still doing that. It's not happening because kids today, I hate to sound old, but it's too easy doing the computer work. They don't want to get up at 4 a.m. and go out in a boat and get the snot kicked out of them, and be soaking wet and cold and freezing. Why? I'll go to school, get a degree, and then, work in an office. So you don't see that whole family, that heritage continuing. Yeah, I'm sure that's happening in other industries that have come and gone. It's sad to see. It was always a family thing. It was always a community thing. And those days are waning. So looks bleak for the fishing, the future commercial fishing. But I see it, but I hate to be a naysayer. Nothing like I saw it. No.
Is there any memorable experiences being out on the water, either recreationally fishing or tugboating or being a harbor patrol? What are some of those memorable experiences you got?
Well, I'm sure you're kind of going for good ones, but I've had a lot of bad ones.
Good or bad, either way.
See, I blew up in a boat once. Gasoline fire. I blew out the windows in a 135-foot boat once, surfing Mavericks. I was at Mavericks. Been towed in by the Coast Guard. You know, a lot of that business, ignorance is bliss. You don't know how bad it could be, but yeah, I've had some experiences in my day, and that was what I used to tell my guys at the Harbor Patrol. I go, learn from my experiences. Think about what you're doing, you know. And the entrance was always fun. Morro Bay's entrance, you know, on a big day, you know, to always verse that. You know, you get, my knees were wobbling a bunch of times coming in, you know. But you know, you're waiting for that one to break and capsize, you know.
So it still is dangerous out there.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's getting better, especially since they dredge every year now. But, yeah, it's interesting at times.
All right. Well, thank you for talking with me
Oh, you're
today.
quite welcome. I hope I had some insight for you.